Scholar. Hi guys, good evening. Okay, so hello everyone. I welcome you all. A very good evening and a happy puja. So myself Biswajit Sir, and I'm your faculty for geography, and I welcome you to SkholarIAS, which is your one-stop solution for IAS preparation, right? So in our NCERT series, we are dealing with the NCERT starting from class 6 to 12. And today, as a demo, I will be talking or I will be taking one chapter out of your class 6 NCERT, which is very, very important, and it will form a base for the upcoming topics, right? So if you look into the PPT which is given here, you will see that the name of your NCERT geography of class 6, it is called as the Earth, our habitat, right? And in this, what am I going to talk about? I am going to talk about today is your lecture number 8, which talks about India. And in India today, I'm going to talk about your climate, your vegetation, and then we will also talk about your wildlife. Now, when you talk about your class 6 NCERT, it basically begins from the topic of Earth as a part of the solar system. Then it talks about what is the latitude, what is the longitude. Then it talks about your rotation and revolution. And then it finally, in the chapter number 7, it introduces you to Indian geography, where it talks about your boundaries, its neighboring countries, its area, latitude, longitude, etc. Right? And in the last topic, which is your chapter number 8, it talks about your climate of India, vegetation of India, and it talks about your wildlife of India. Fine. And in today's class, the first thing that we are going to talk about is your climate of India. And when we say climate, there are in total 4 different climates or seasons which are seen in India, which we will talk about, right? Then moving on, we will also talk about your vegetations which are found in India. And in the topic of vegetation, we will understand how your climate plays a very, very important role in determining in a particular location what type of vegetation you will find. All right. And then lastly, we will also talk about your wildlife of India, right? And this topic of wildlife, it is not that important from your geography perspective because it forms your important part from your environment and ecology section, right? So in today's class, the most important topic will be your climate and vegetation and wildlife. Yes, I will talk about this, but it is not that important, right? So without wasting much time, let us begin with the class. Fine. All right. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is your climate, right? We will talk about climate. Now, what is the first point? Broadly, the major seasons which are found in India are how many? There are 4 seasons in total. Firstly, we have the cold weather season, which is also called as your winter season. And when is this season extending from? It extends from the month of December to up to your month of February, right? Then the second season after the winter season ends, what is the next season we get? We get your summer season, or which is also called as your hot weather season, right? And this season is extending from the period of March to May, right? And after your summer season ends, the next season that we have is your rainy season, and your rainy season is also called as your southwest monsoon season, right? So once the summer season ends, your rainy season will begin, and it extends from the period of your June to September. All right. And then after the southwest monsoon or the rainy period ends, we get the retreating monsoon season, or which is also called as your autumn season, right? And this season extends between the month of October and November, right? So broadly, we have 4 different seasons, right? So now let us talk about these seasons one by one. So first we will talk about your winter, then we will talk about summer, then we will talk about rainy, and then we will talk about your autumn season, right? But before we proceed to understand the characteristics which are found in your respective climates, we have to understand the concept which is called as your apparent movement of the sun Now, this topic was already explained to me in the chapter number 4 or 5 of class 6 NCERT. But since this is a live class, let me also give you a brief about what do you mean by apparent movement of the sun, right? Now, we all know that Earth is revolving around the sun, or the planets or all the planets are revolving around the sun. So because of that, as the Earth rotates around the sun, it looks like, or rather it appears like, as if the sun is also moving, meaning as the sun or as the Earth is revolving around the sun, on Earth, what do we see is that the position of the sun keeps on changing, right? The position of the sun keeps on changing. So this change in the position of the sun, we call it as apparent movement. We call it as apparent movement. Now, why the term apparent? We use the term apparent because, of course, the sun is stationary at its place. It is not the sun which is moving, but rather it is the planets which are moving, right? But as the Earth is revolving, the position of the sun, it looks like, or it appears like, as if it is changing, and therefore we call, or we say that the sun is having an apparent movement, right? Now, what is this apparent movement? Now, on the Earth, it is seen that if this is the Earth, here we have the equator, right? Here we have the Tropic of Cancer, which is 23.5 degrees north, right? And then here we have the Tropic of Capricorn, which is your 23.5 degrees south, right? So this apparent movement of the sun that I am talking about on the Earth, it looks like, or it appears that the sun is having a movement between these two latitudes, between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So beyond the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, that is your beyond 23.5 degree latitude north and south, here we do not find the presence of the sun. Yes, we do have sunlight in this region. That is because the sunlight in this region falls obliquely and not perpendicular. Very, very important point, right? So the apparent movement of the sun is between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Meaning what? Meaning in between these two latitudes, or in this zone that you see here, your sun rays will be vertical. And beyond Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, we do not find the presence of your sun, right? Because in those regions, yes, we do find sunlight, but the sunlight is because it falls obliquely. And in these areas that you see, this area and this area, here the sun rays will not be perpendicular, right? So this is very, very important to understand the climates or the seasons, right? So here, what do we take out from this? We take out that the sun movement is between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, right? Fine. Now let us go and understand about your winter season. Now, what happens in the winter season? Let us look into the first point. So during the winter season, the sun rays do not fall directly in the region, and as a result, the temperatures are quite low in northern India. Now again, this is the Earth. Here we have the equator, right? Here we have the Tropic of Cancer, which is around your 23.5 degrees north, right? And here we have presence of India, right? And here we have the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So what is it saying? During the winter season in the northern hemisphere, this is the northern hemisphere, right? What happens? The sun rays do not fall directly in the region. But the question is, why it does not fall directly? Because during the winter period in the northern hemisphere, the sun is present somewhere here, meaning the sun is somewhere in the southern hemisphere near the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So how will it look like? Now here, suppose if I consider this to be your 0 degree, that is your equator. Here, suppose I consider this to be 23.5 degrees north, that is your Tropic of Cancer. And here we have 23.5 degrees south, which is your Tropic of Capricorn, right? So during your winter period in the northern hemisphere, your sun is present here, meaning your sun is present in the southern hemisphere. Therefore, the rays which will fall in India, which is found near the Tropic of Capricorn, will it be oblique or not? And if your sun rays are oblique, what will happen to the temperature? Your temperature will start to fall, meaning we will have your winter season. Understood? So during the winter season, your sun rays do not fall directly because it is in the southern hemisphere, right? And as a result of this, the climate in northern India will be colder. Understood? Excuse me. But the situation, what happens? The situation reverses. The situation will reverse when? During the summer season. So as the earth keeps on revolving around the sun, what happens? In a particular situation, now the sun will be present in the Tropic of Cancer, that is at 23.5 north, right? And because of this, what will happen? Because of this, if you notice this diagram again, 0 degree, here we have India, that is your 23.5 north, right? So here now the sun will be present here, and because of this in India we will see that the sun rays are falling vertically. And meaning what? If the sun rays are falling vertically, your temperature will also increase, meaning we will have what kind of season? We will have summer season. Understood? So in the hot weather season, the sun rays more or less falls directly in the region, and because of that reason, your temperature will be high. Understood this? Then this season, what happens? As the conditions are very dry, because we are having hot season, right? And because of this, in the northern parts of India, what will happen? As the season is very dry and warm, a very hot wind starts to blow, which we call it as your loo. Understood? Okay, somebody is telling me to repeat. Which section do you want me to repeat? Do you want me to repeat? Fine. So after the winter season, as the sun is in the Tropic of Capricorn, we will have your cold conditions in India. During the summer season, as the sun is in the Tropic of Cancer region, and because of that, your temperature will be high, and we will be having summer season, right? After the summer season, what happens? We get another season which is called as your rainy season. And in case of rainy season, what happens? Suppose this is the Indian Peninsula region, right? So here what do we have? Here we have the Arabian Sea, right? And here we have the Bay of Bengal, right? So what is this point? Let us go through the points first. This season is marked by the onset and advance of the monsoon, right? This season is marked by your onset and advance of monsoon. Now, what do you mean by monsoon? Now, when we go to the higher classes, we will deal in more details about what monsoons are, right? Monsoons, for the time being, you understand, these are nothing but your winds, which are blowing from the Indian Ocean towards which one? Towards Indian Peninsula, right? So as the summer season ends, your winds will start to blow from the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal towards the Indian Peninsula. Understood? So that's why the term your onset and advancement of monsoon. Monsoon are nothing but your winds which will be blowing from the Indian Ocean towards the Indian Peninsular region, right? So as the wind is blowing, what will happen? Now these winds are blowing over Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, right? As a result of this, these winds will be carrying moisture with it, because oceans are vast source of water, right? So these winds, as it blows, it will carry moisture in it, and this moisture will be brought where? It will be brought in the Indian Peninsular region, right? So these winds which are blowing from the Arabian Sea region and the winds which are blowing from the Bay of Bengal region, they both will go, right? They both will go and cause heavy rainfall in the Indian region, right? In the Indian Peninsular region, in the North India, as well as in your Northeast India, right? So the winds blow from your Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal towards the land, meaning towards your Indian Peninsula, right? And they carry moisture with them, like I have already explained. And with this, the winds will strike the mountain barriers and your rainfall will occur. Meaning, if you look at India, in this section that you see here, here there is a presence of a huge mountainous region which we call it as your Western Ghats, right? So as the winds blow and strikes the Western Ghats, what will happen? As the winds go and strike the Western Ghats, it will cause heavy amount of rainfall. And if your rainfall is high in a particular area, your forest growth will be very, very high, meaning in these areas we will find the presence of evergreen forest. And that is the reason why this whole section that you see here, the Western Ghats, it is marked by presence of evergreen forest, because in this area your rainfall is very, very high. Fine. All right. So this was about the rainy season. But then what happens after the rainy season? Now, during the rainy season, your winds were blowing in this direction, right? Your winds were blowing in this direction. But in the next season, what happens? In the next season, your winds will now reverse its direction. What will it do? It will reverse its direction. And therefore, we use the term what? We use the term retreating, meaning it is getting reversed, right? So if this was the direction, now what will be the direction of the winds? It will be in this way. It is retreating away from the Indian peninsula and it is moving towards the Indian Ocean region, right? So the movement of the wind will completely get reversed. Understood this? Fine. So what happens? The winds will move back from the mainland to the Bay of Bengal region, and this is the season of your retreating monsoon. Now here occurs a very, very important phenomena. Very, very important phenomena. Here basically what happens? As the winds are reversing, in the Bay of Bengal region, if you notice, as the wind reverses, this wind will carry moisture from the Bay of Bengal, and as it reverses in this section that you see, that is along the coastline of Tamil Nadu as well as that of your Andhra Pradesh, right? So as the wind reverses, it will carry moisture from the Bay of Bengal region and it will strike the coast of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. And because of this, what happens? During the retreating monsoon season, we will see rainfall along the coast of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So this is one of the few areas which does not receive rainfall during the rainy season, but it receives rainfall during the retreating monsoon season. This is very, very important, right? So this point that I have mentioned, it is important from your exams perspective, right? So these are the four main seasons that we see, right? So overall, if I have to give a summary about the topic of climate, if I have to give you an overall summary, the climate of India has been broadly described as your monsoon type. Monsoons are nothing but your winds, right? And your monsoon term is taken from your Arabic word, which means your mausim, right? And the term mausim itself means your seasons, fine? And due to India's location in the tropical region, most of the rain is brought by your monsoon winds, like we have already seen, right? And agriculture in India is directly dependent on rainfall. So what do we say? We say that the agriculture in India is mostly falling under the category of your rain-fed farming. Because if I have to talk about your irrigation, right? If I have to talk about irrigation, around your 45.7% of the total agricultural land is only receiving irrigational facilities, right? So rest of the agricultural land is receiving rainfall from the monsoon, right? So we are monsoon dependent, fine. Then what is the next point that we have? The climate of a place is affected by its location, by altitude, by the distance from the sea, as well as your relief, right? Now if you look at India, India has a huge location both in terms of latitude as well as longitude, right? Then altitude also varies. For example, we have your low areas like your northern plains, and then we have high elevated areas like your Himalayas as well. Now the distance from the sea, for example, the coastal areas are very near to the, or India has a very huge coastline, right? So there are certain areas which are found in the central part of India which is away from the sea, and there are certain areas which are nearer to the sea. Understood? So as the topography as well as your relief feature has changed or it is varying across your Indian region. So what do we see? We see a lot of climatic variations. We see a lot of climatic variations in India. Understood? So therefore, we experience regional differences in the climate of India. And as your climate changes, as the next topic will say, as your climate changes, your natural vegetation will also keep on changing, right? So after we have discussed about the climate portion, let us also talk about your natural vegetation which is found in India, right? So the grasses, the shrubs and the trees which grow on their own without interference or help from your human beings, they are called as your natural vegetation, right? So the grasses, the shrubs, the trees which are growing without any help from the humans or without any intervention from the humans, what we will call them? We call them as your natural vegetation, right? And your different types of natural vegetations are dependent on different types of climatic conditions. This point is very important. So the type of natural vegetation that we will see in a particular place, it depends on what? It depends upon your climatic factors. And when I say by the terminology climatic factors, I mean it will depend upon your rainfall, right? And it will also depend upon the temperature of a particular place. Now, for an example, if I go to an area which is receiving very high amount of rainfall and it is receiving very high amount of temperature. So in that area, what type of vegetation do you think we will find there? We will find there evergreen forest, right? But on the other hand, if I go to an area where there is less amount of rainfall, where your temperature is also very, very high, right? So what type of vegetation do you think we will find there? We will find there thorny forest, right? Because your rainfall is scanty. Understood? So the major factor which determines the type of natural vegetation that we will find is your climatic factors. Fine. So due to your varied climatic conditions, India has a wide range of natural vegetation, right? And in total in India, we have 5 different types of vegetations. Number one, we have your tropical evergreen forest. Then we have your tropical deciduous forest. Then we have your thorny forest. Then we have your mountain vegetation. And we also have your mangrove forest, right? So in India, in total, we have 5 different types of vegetation. Tropical evergreen, your tropical deciduous, your thorny forest, your mountain forest and vegetation. And then we have your mangrove forest, right? So let us talk about this forest one by one. Fine. So let us first talk about your tropical rainforest, right? So your tropical rainforest will occur in the areas which receives very heavy amount of rainfall. And while I was explaining you Indian climate, I talked about your Western Ghats, right? Which receives very high amount of rainfall. Therefore, in Western Ghats, we see the presence of your tropical rainforest, right? So your tropical rainforest occur in the areas which receives heavy amount of rainfall, and they are so dense that the sunlight does not reach the ground. Meaning, one of the major characteristic of your rainfall, your evergreen forest is that they will have very thick canopy. The canopy is so thick that the sunlight is not able to penetrate through it and reach the ground, right? And many of the species of trees are found in this forest which will shed their leaves at different times of the year. Very, very important. And as the trees of your evergreen of the evergreen forest vegetation, as they are shedding their leaves at different times, meaning it will appear evergreen all the time. Suppose for an example, during the summer season, some trees have shed the leaves, but some have not. During the winter season, some will shed, but some will not. Therefore, throughout the year, this forest appears to be evergreen, right? And therefore, they always appear green, and they are called as your evergreen forest. Understood this, right? And what are the important, okay, what are the important tropical rainforests that we find? Your examples of trees which are examples of tropical rainforest are your mahogany, we have ebony, and we have rosewood. This is very, very important from your prelims perspective. right? So you have to know suppose if I talk about a vegetation, you have to know the kind of trees which are found in those particular areas. Fine. Then what are the regions in India where we see the presence of tropical evergreen forest? So it is found along the Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. It is found in the northeastern states of India. Then it is also found as a narrow strip in the western slope of the Western Ghats, right? So these are the three regions in India where we see presence of your tropical rainforest. Andaman, then we have your northeast region, and then we have the Western Ghats, right? Fine. So this was about your tropical rainforest. Moving on, let us now talk about your tropical deciduous forest, right? Now, always remember your tropical deciduous forest, it is also called as your monsoonal forest, right? So in a large part of our country, we have this type of forest, and these forests are also called as what? They are also called as your monsoon forest. Fine. And they are less dense compared to your tropical evergreen forest, and they shed their leaves at a particular time of the year. Very, very important. So all the trees which are falling under the category of your tropical deciduous forest, they will shed their leaves at a particular time of the year only. Therefore, in certain seasons, be it your summer season, it can be a winter season, all the trees will shed their leaves in a particular time of the year, and therefore it appears to be naked in certain seasons. Understood? So in case of your tropical evergreen forest, the trees did not have a definite time to shed the leaves, but in case of your tropical deciduous forest, your trees are having a particular time in order to shed the leaves together, and therefore it appears to be naked, right? So this is one of the major difference between your tropical evergreen and tropical deciduous forest, right? And if I have to talk about your important trees which are found here, it includes your sal, teak, peepal, neem, and then we also have your shisham, right? And if I have to talk about the regions in India where it is found in the states of Madhya Pradesh, it is found in UP, it is found in Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, as well as in certain parts of your Maharashtra. Fine. All right. Then the next type of forest that we have, it is your thorn forest or your thorny bushes, right? So this type of vegetation, as the name is itself suggesting, it is found where? It is found in your dry areas of the country. Excuse me. And the leaves which are found, or the thorny bushes that we have, the leaves are in the form of spines. It is in the form of spines. Now the question is why? Now why it is found in the shape of spine? Because it needs to conserve water or moisture, because these are the areas which are receiving scanty amount of rainfall, right? And because of this, the trees needs to prevent or needs to stop transpiration. And what is transpiration? Transpiration is nothing but your loss of water from the plants, right? Your plants will need moisture, and in order to conserve your moisture, what happens? The leaves which are found in these areas, they are of spine structure. Now why spine structure? Because spine structure has less surface area, therefore it will result in lesser amount of transpiration. And secondly, these spines will also have a waxy coating along with it, and this waxy coating also reduces your transpiration. Understood this? And your examples would include your cactus, khair, babul, kikar, right? And it is found in which regions in India? It is found in Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, eastern slopes of Western Ghats, and also Gujarat, right? Then we have your mountain vegetation. Of course, by the term itself, you can guess it that we are talking about the vegetations which are found along the mountainous regions of India, right? So a wide range of species is found in the mountains according to the variation in the height. So if this is a mountain, so as the height, or as we move up the elevation in a mountain, your vegetation also keeps on changing. Because as we keep on increasing the height or as we climb up, what happens? Your climatic conditions starts to change. Your climatic conditions will change. And if you remember, again, go back, your natural vegetation depends on what? It depends upon your climatic factors, right? So as we increase the elevation, your climatic conditions also change, and therefore your natural vegetations will also keep on changing, right? So with increase in the height, your temperature will start to fall, and at a height between your 1500 meter to 2500 meters, most of the trees are conical in shape, fine. And the trees are called as your coniferous trees, and your examples would include your cheer, pine, deodar. Understood? Very, very important. Fine. Then what mangrove forest, always remember they are found in the tidal regions, meaning they are found where? They are found in the coastal areas, right? Why so? Because the type of vegetation which is found, okay, the type of vegetation which is found here, they are called as a helophytic. They are called as a helophytic. Helophytic means what? The vegetation here, they are saline tolerant, meaning the vegetations will grow only in those areas which will have saline water present in it, meaning brackish water, where your fresh water and your saline water will mix. And in which areas do you think your saline water and your fresh water mixes? It mixes in the coastal areas. Your fresh water is coming from the rivers, right? And your saline water is coming from the oceans. So the places where your oceans and the rivers are meeting, there we will find examples of your mangrove forest, fine, right? So these are the forests which can survive in your saline water, and they are mainly found in Sundarbans in the West Bengal, which is considered to be the largest mangrove forest of the world, right? And it is also found in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right? And your example of your mangrove tree would include your Sundari, and it is after the name of Sundari that the Sundarbans has got its name. Understood? So these are the important natural vegetations that we see, right? So this was about your climate and your natural vegetation, right? Then moving on, if I have to talk about your wildlife. Now this topic is not very important, like I have already said, from your examination perspective, right? This topic is mainly a part of your environment and ecology, which will be dealt with separately, right? But still, let us just go through it since it's a part of the NCERT, and NCERT forms your basis of your exam preparation, right? So your forest is considered to be home to a wide variety of wildlife, and there are thousands of species of animals and a large variety of reptiles, amphibians, mammals, birds, insects, and worms which dwell in the forest, right? For example, tiger is considered to be our national animal, and it is found in various parts of the country, especially it is located in the central India, right? Then we have the Gir forest in Gujarat, which is considered to be home of the Asiatic lions, right? Then we have elephants and your one-horned rhinoceros, which roams in the forest of Assam, where we have the famous Kaziranga National Park. We also have the Manas National Park, right? Then we have elephants, which are found in Kerala, your Karnataka. It is also found in the state of Assam. Then we have camels and wild asses, which are found in the Great Indian Desert and the Rann of Kutch region. Rann of Kutch is an area which is a part of the state of Gujarat, right? Then India equally has a wide variety of bird life. Your peacock is considered to be our national bird. Then we have other birds like parrots, pigeons. We have myna, geese, bulbul, as well as ducks, right? Then due to your cutting down of your forest and because of your hunting down of animals, your several species of wildlife of India have been declining rapidly, and many species have already become extinct, right? So in order to protect these animals which are currently other threatening from your cutting down of forest, deforestation, as well as hunting, your government of India has created your national parks, it has created wildlife sanctuaries, it has created your tiger reserves, right? So in order to protect them, many national parks, sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves has been set up. And the government has also started various projects, like we have your Project Tiger, then we have your project element, your elephant as well, right? So this is about the last chapter of your class 6 NCERT. So let us do a quick review of what we have understood, right? So firstly, we have talked about the climate of India, where we have understood that in total we have your 4 different seasons. We have your winter season, summer season, then we have rainy season, and then we have your retreating monsoon season, right? So in winter season, we have seen that the sun rays are falling obliquely, and therefore your temperature is very low, and therefore we have your winter climate. Then in the summer season, as the sun shifts towards the Tropic of Cancer, it falls vertically on the landmass of India, and therefore your temperature starts to rise, and we will have summer season. Then it is followed by your rainy season, where your monsoonal winds are traveling from the Arabian Sea and your Bay of Bengal region, and it is entering India and causing a rainfall, right? Then comes your retreating monsoon period, where we have seen that these monsoon winds will start to reverse, and as it reverses, what happens? The Bay of Bengal monsoonal winds, it will pick up moisture from the Bay of Bengal, and it will cause your rainfall along the coast of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, right? Then moving on, we have understood the climate of India. We have given a summary why it is called as a monsoonal type of climate. Then moving on, as we have talked about climate, we have also understood the direct relationship that exists between your climate and your natural vegetation, right? So depending upon your climatic factors like your rainfall and temperature, your vegetation also keeps on changing. For example, we have your tropical rainforest, where these are found in those areas which are having climatic conditions like good amount of or heavy amount of rainfall, right? And your important trees includes your mahogany, ebony, and rosewood, and it appears to be always evergreen because it does not have a particular season to shed its leaf, right? Then areas include your Andaman, then it includes your Northeast India, as well as your Western Ghat region. Then we have your tropical deciduous forest, where we have seen that the trees are having a particular season where it sheds its leaves, right? So therefore it appears to be naked, right? And why it sheds its leaf? It sheds its leaf in the dry season because it wants to conserve moisture, right? So that is the reason behind why plants or your trees shed their leaves, right? And these are found in the states of MP, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, etc. And your examples would include your sal, teak, peepal, neem, and sisam, right? Then we have talked about the thorny bushes, and where there we have understood why the leaves are in the form of spines, because it has less surface, it has a waxy coat, and because of that it prevents or it lessens down the process of transpiration, that is loss of water from the your plants, right? Then we have also talked about your mountain vegetation, where we have seen that with the change in elevation, your vegetation also keeps on changing because your climatic condition keeps on changing, right? And then we have talked about your mangrove forests, which are found in the coastal regions. Why in the coastal regions? Because these are helophytic plants which grows in areas where there is a mixture of fresh water and your saline water. Fine. Then we have talked about very briefly about the wildlife as well, how because of deforestation and hunting, our government has started initiatives like creating national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. Right? So let us deal with 2 questions before we conclude. The first one is about your mangrove forest, and it thrives where your options are saline water, we have fresh water, number 3 is your polluted water. Of course, your correct answer here is your saline water, right? Then we have your mahogany and your rosewood, which are examples of number 1, your mangrove forest. We have your tropical deciduous forest. And then we also have the third option, which is your tropical evergreen forest. Of course, as we have seen, your correct answer is your option number 3, that is your tropical evergreen forest, right? So this is where we will conclude. And if you have any questions, kindly ask me, and please do not hesitate, right? So if any questions, kindly ask me. Any questions? So this was from my side. If you have any questions, I will give you time. There is no time constraint. I will wait. Anything that you want to ask me with regards to geography? Okay, fine then. Since there are no questions, I hope and I really wish you all the best for the examination. That is your 2021, your UPSC prelims, right? So do like and subscribe. And we are coming with our NCERT courses for all the subjects, which will be dealt with extensively. So it will be really helpful if we have your support, because we put in a lot of effort for the students who really wants to crack this examination and serve the nation, right? So thank you so much for attending the classes. We have done it, right? So have a good evening. Thank you.